We found the Dream Center after a long night with the Lord up all night, and he was showing me visually, in a vision, I wasn't asleep, it wasn't a dream, showing me all different panels of video of kids interacting, from Bible study to eating to playing games, etc. All these different things that the kids do today. And after wrestling all night till 5:30 in the morning, I said, Lord, if this is you, I need to know and have somebody validate this. And the next day, a man I never met, knew who he was, came to my office unannounced and said to me, the Lord wants you to build a program for hurting boys and girls and teenagers. So I said, Lord, tell me what to do and we'll do our best to do it. And he worked in marvelous ways. I didn't build it, he did.
I knew, man, when Gary would pick us up, that we were gonna do something fun and productive. You know, we were gonna do something. You know, and I can remember Christmas time, we all got bikes, and I got to help Gary put all the bikes together. You know, they were all in boxes and pieces and everything. And I'd raced BMX when I was a kid, so I knew a lot about bikes. So we sit over there at the old place and we just kept putting all them bikes together. You know, me and a couple other kids, we built those bikes for everybody that was there, you know. And I can remember him giving those out.
Well, I got to know Gary mostly through church, because I saw him bringing all these kids in and feeding them lunch and attending church service, and he was pretty overwhelmed. And I was helping Ray Brown, who was the youth pastor at that time, and I kept saying, I think Gary's group needs a lot more help than you do, and he agreed. So I just started going over there and helping them, driving for them, feeding them, taking them home, just sitting with them during church. And that's when, after doing that for a few years, that's when I got the invite from Gary to go to Louisville. And he offered me the job. I didn't give it much thought. I didn't really pray about it. I just said pretty much yes, and retired from my other job and have been there for 22 years.
Well, Gary, our visionary founder, has been truly a lifeline for the Dream Center over the course of the last 25 years, from being intimately involved in every single day's programming to today, where he's been able to step back into a founder emeritus status, where he's able to see the ministry grow and expand past even maybe what he thought it would be able to be, has been really inspiring. And I count Gary as one of my very best friends. He will always be our visionary founder. Bill Scruggs has been an integral part of every single day of Dream Center Evansville's history over the course of the past 25 years. He has hugged so many kids. He has been a grandpa to so many kids throughout his time at the Dream Center. He has been a rock solid father figure for so many of the kids we serve, for so many of the staff. Not a person has walked away from an interaction with Bill without a smile on their face and believing that they are important to Bill and also to God. And so we have a lot to be thankful for when it comes to Bill Scruggs.
It was a few days before Christmas, probably 5 or 6 days before Christmas, and one of our teenage girls said, Gary, my mom is embarrassed to call you, but she needs to talk to you. And I said, what about? She said, well, our electricity's off, and it's been off now for 4 or 5 days, and it's cold in the house, and we can't cook, and on and on. So you imagine what happens when a storm comes and electricity goes out. It's a big inconvenience for an hour or two, but for days it's somewhat devastating. So I said, well, have your mom call me. Well, we didn't have the money to pay utility bills all those days and whatever, but the Sunday before, one of our men at church believed in us. He said, hand me an envelope. He said, Gary, just help one of your families this Christmas with this. And I didn't know how much it was. I put it in my jacket pocket and got home, and it was for $472. And I thought, that's an unusual amount. Why would it be $472? And so a couple days later, when this lady called me, she's trying to tell me all this stuff, and I'd planned on maybe trying to give her $100, $150 to help her. So after trying to tell her, we really didn't have that money to in our budget to help, but we'll try to do something. I said, well, how much is your bill? $471.57. I said, we can take care of that bill. So God provided before we knew there was even a problem, and that happened so many times.
Dream Center had a big part of my faith. When I was there, I thought that I was having fun, and I was having fun, you know. So a lot of their speeches and Gary's speeches, you know, I'm sure has carried me on through the years, you know. We're talking 25 years ago, guys, and that's awesome. Dream Center and Gary, 25 years.
Bill and myself and my wife Christy, we covered all of Jacobsville looking for the right place. And some of the buildings we offered to buy, one was $163,000, and we offered them $170,000, and they turned it down because that wasn't where God wanted us. And so we kept going and looking, and finally Christy called me one day on cell phone. She said, I just drove by Garvin Park, and across the street there are 3 old buildings that are for sale. So I called, and a lady answered. I said, I understand you have some buildings for sale? And she said, yeah, the 3 of them. And I said, well, how much you want? She said, $80,000. I said, I'll be right over. And so we drove over, and we chatted a minute. I looked at them. I knew they were going to be knocked down. So we bought the 3 buildings for $80,000. It cost us about $25,000 to knock the buildings down, haul them off, and then we put up the sign, Future Home of the Dream Center.
This is where I was born and I was raised, right here in Jacobsville, you know. I walked to school, to Delaware, to school every day. And I'd walk home, you know, and that's how it was. I lived right on Missouri Street. That's what made me want to open back up right here in Jacobsville, because this is exactly where I come from. I walked these streets my whole life. You know, I know a lot of people in this community. I'm real proud of this community, so that's why I like to give back to right here in Jacobsville, you know.
I've known Bill for about 15 years. Back when I was a Dream Center kid, everybody used to run around and call him Grandpa. And he's always been there, you know. He's like a staple Dream Center person. And when we were kids, every Sunday he would pick us all up in a big 15-passenger van, and he would take us all to church. And even now, as a grown-up, every time I see him, I still run over and give him a hug. He's Bill. You can't have Dream Center without Bill, I don't think. Whenever he finally decides to retire, it's not going to be the same without him.
Well, one of the bigger differences that I notice is that you don't see the difference you're making until sometimes later in life, when you hear from them and they call you and say, hey, I'm doing this and that, and I want to let you know how much we appreciate what you did for us back then. Like our buddy at the restaurant there on Main Street, Wayland's. The relations that you make are just, you can't even describe them. I think you posted something the other day about loving a kid so much that's not yours. Well, that's what this whole thing is about. We loved them. We still love them.
What Jeremy and everybody does down there for those kids is really awesome. You know, a lot of people don't understand what some of the kids in this community go through as kids. You know, some of them may not eat, you know, at night. Some of them may not eat during the day. When they go to school or they go to the Dream Center, we know they're going to get a meal. You know, so that's one big thing that I love about the Dream Center, is because they don't leave any kid behind.
When we went to Harlem in early 2018, that was a really important moment, I think, for leaders in our community, but especially for Dream Center. We, at the time, had been processing a really big question, which was, what does it mean to help a child make it, to help a child win? And we'd seen those stories happen, ebb and flow through our history, but we had not seen it systematically happen in a neighborhood like Jacobsville. And we kept learning from and hearing about this model out of Harlem, New York, about these tens of thousands of kids that were going to go to college and have this radical transformation in life. And we were going to go there and we were going to bottle it up and bring it back. And while I think something like that did happen, it wasn't a substance or some kind of magic learning that happened. It was this galvanizing moment where we realized, look, they've already kind of laid it out. We already have a good sense of what our kids need. we just got something that we hadn't had before, which was permission to finally go and press into our work of helping kids win at scale.
What stands out to me about the Dream Center as I've watched them interact with kids, because my husband is a basketball coach and sometimes coaches there, and just watching Jeremy operate with the staff, is the trust. So it does a very good job in making kids feel safe and valued and heard. And it approaches what it does from an asset-based approach, an empowering approach. So it's not a savior complex kind of thing. It's more about how can we work together to get you out of the situation you find yourself in or to that next goal that you have. And the power of hope for a family in need is priceless. And so they're uniquely good at providing that sense of hope and fun, and not afraid to have fun, which is crucial.
The Dream Center has helped me as a parent by just keeping me motivated, keeping me on my toes, and not to give up. They have taught me not to give up on a lot of situations that seem like it's bad, but they were there for me to make things a lot easier, and so I appreciate that.
When we first started on our work after leaving Harlem, we came back to Jacobsville and said we needed geography, so we picked 4 blocks. There was no magic to the number 4 blocks. It was just the easiest thing to think about as it related to where Delaware Elementary School was at. And we picked the 4 blocks that were bounded by Delaware to the north, Virginia to the south, Garvin to the east, and Governor to the west. And we got in there and we found about 115 houses. We found what you would imagine were a plethora of different types of families, but not as many kids as you would think. We found about 15 or 20 kids, and we made it our personal mission for the next year or two to know every single one of those kids and to give every single one of those kids what they would need to succeed and to be college, career, and life ready.
In our work, we talk about something we call the list of things that nobody can tell us we can't do. And as it came to the 4 blocks, what that really looked like was knocking on doors. There was nobody to stop us from knocking on every single door on those 4 blocks, from getting to know those people, just getting to know who they were, getting to know who they wanted their kids to be. And I'll tell you, it was one of the most beautiful times we've had at the Dream Center because we just had the opportunity to get to know people and to understand better what our neighborhood was all about.
At the Dream Center, one of the things we really strive for is for our kids to grow up, graduate, and come back to the neighborhood to try and make it a better place. As someone who has done that, I think successfully, it is a big part of my life to make sure that our kids are also able to do that, to make sure that they are able to graduate from high school, to make sure that they are successful adults and they have the tools that they need to become successful adults.
When I met Jeremy, I think the first couple things that jumped out to me was I've known people who really care about the future and the visions they have and get really excited and passionate about the things that they care about. I hadn't met anyone who took so personally the vision and the dreams on their heart and the way that they wake up with that every single day. That was such a unique quality to experience when I first got to know him.
The Dream Center influenced my life by opening up God in a more realistic way. I wasn't too sure about it and I didn't believe in it, but Dream Center made me believe and trust and put my whole faith into God, and I really appreciate it for that because Dream Center opened a whole new chapter of my life by leading me towards God. Do I see myself staying at the Dream Center? Yes, I do. I'm planning on going into Dream Center, and I will probably volunteer in the future whenever I'm old enough. Dream Center has been a very amazing place for me, and I'm going to stay as long as I can.
I mean, where do you even start when you're lost and you're not sure where, but at least there's this beacon. There's this Dream Center that you can go to, and someone there's going to help you figure it out. That could be the kid, the parent, the mom, the dad, the grandma who's not sure. Or you see that logo on a polo coming at you on a street corner, right? You're going to know that you're going to be taken care of and that they have your best interest in mind. And that's something that needs to be built in our community outside of just that neighborhood. So that's why I'm so excited about seeing you guys scale.
The Dream Center model is a dynamic idea. It says we're going to put a child in the very middle of our teams, our people, our programs, our places, our policies, everything. The child's in the middle, and we're going to ask one really specific question. What do they need to be economically mobile when they're an adult? What do they need right now as a kindergartner? What do they need right now as a third grader, eighth grader, high schooler, college student? What do they need so by the time that they are out in the world as an adult, they're thriving in every domain of life?
What started as a 4-block pilot program quickly revealed itself to be our new model. Our board of directors, after about a year of working with those 8 kids in the 4 blocks, recognized that this was what we needed to do as a full-time job. And so we quickly expanded from 4 to 8 to 12 to 32 blocks. Today we're serving all 230 blocks of Jacobsville, about 100 kids in those 230 blocks, but we know that there's room for expansion.
The Promise Neighborhood process has been really humbling for me to get a firsthand view into what organizations like the Dream Center make happen every day for the families in our community. So it's very easy in a community like Evansville to get siloed to where you're in your neighborhood and you go to work and you don't get to interact with people too much outside of that. That's not an option in the Promise Neighborhood. We all have to work together to wrap around care for these families and these children. And what the Dream Center does is a very direct intervention way of doing that. The passion and the intensity with which they serve our community has been nothing short of awe-inspiring and really has become the model, thanks to the Harlem Children's Zone, for other groups in our community that want to learn this. It's been incredible to watch. And in fact, other nonprofits in our community, and there are a lot of them, are looking to the Dream Center for how do we do this? And conversely, the Dream Center is looking to them, how do we scale? So it's been a really beautiful thing to watch take shape, seeing the Dream Center become kind of that guiding star for us.
Over the years, I just learned that seeking help, not a lot of people have stayed consistent with their help. There was always some point where they would just give up or say, we can't help you moving forward. And then I just felt like I was starting all over, back to square one. But with the Dream Center, they stay there from the beginning to the end. And I think that is something that a lot of people like me, who's a single mother, look forward to, like just having help that's not going to just turn away when things are getting hard for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to see, I mean, Jeremy, you and I have had this discussion, you know, how many kids you actually get to serve with the passion and the capacity that you have to serve. But scaling is a very different thing. Serving 100 families versus 10,000 versus 20,000 and versus meeting families where they are. So having a center is a physically difficult thing sometimes to fund. And so how can that be reimagined? How could we use the design thinking process? How can UE partner with the Dream Center to use the design thinking process to reimagine what a center looks like?
So there's really 4 key areas we see ourselves growing in the next decade. Those are expanding in Jacobsville and serving more of the kids that we know and love at Delaware and at North. The second is expanding our presence in other neighborhoods where existing partners are already doing great work through the way of coaching. So we've learned a lot over the last 5 years, and we'd like to make sure our friends don't make the same mistakes we have. And so we're working on building coaching partnerships with organizations in other neighborhoods. Third is to expand our presence in neighborhoods that don't have outreach. Our new vision statement is helping generations thrive neighborhood by neighborhood. And while Jacobsville will always be home base for us and we'll never leave that neighborhood, we have a vision of expanding to areas that are under-resourced in our region. Fourth is policy. We believe that we can be an impactful player in the educational and civic policy space by helping make big picture changes in our community. We know that there are 14,000 kids living in poverty in our 5-county area, and we want to make a lasting difference in the lives of as many of those kids as we can by helping them become followers of Jesus, career college, and life ready by the time they graduate high school. This work is not going to be easy. It's going to take a lot of hard work and resources, but the Dream Center, we live in a world where we are unwilling to accept the negative outcomes of poverty for any child in our region. And with that vision in mind, we are taking steps to make a critical impact in the lives of as many of those kids as we can.
So my dream for Dream Center and my hope for Dream Center is that they would be able to find a way to scale this really wonderful promise that they've actualized through a cradle to career continuum approach to that 14,000, so that we could begin to see every single one of those children on a pathway to economic mobility by the time they're an adult.
My hope for the Dream Center would be that it gets the resources it needs to scale its special sauce to other nonprofits. So Dream Center and what it does for its neighborhood is amazing. So how do we make Dream Centers near East Side, Dream Centers UE? I would love to see kids be able to access that kind of service wherever it is. There's whole pockets of our city where kids have nowhere to go. And I'd love to see over the next few decades they get to help us change that.